How you doing today? Today I'm going to talk a little about genealogy and my family's genealogy. I started doing it back in the mid 80s, and my dad started doing it in the mid 60s. And he had all our relatives from his grandfather, great grandfather, back to the early 1800s. And finding information back then was really hard because there just wasn't a whole lot of just information just floating around. You had to really search. And we lived close to 15 minutes out of Washington, D.C. So in the mid 80s, I started getting into the genealogy. And I'd go down on a Saturday and spend like 4, 5, 6 hours at the Library of Congress, National Archives, going through information. And again, a lot of time for not a whole lot of results back then. Then I found out that here's a shout out to the Latter-day Saints, their family search centers. I found out about one of those that lives like 10 minutes from where I lived near Annandale. So I started going there, and I found more information because it had all on microfilm. So I had access to it, and I could order microfilm. So then, again, Dad felt that we were, had Viking heritage and, all England. And so we moved down here, and I was playing golf, around the golf with this guy. And I introduced myself, and he introduced himself. And when I told him my name, he said, "Oh, that's a Viking name." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, the way it is and everything." And he said, "Yeah, I'm from Finland." And he caught that right off the bat, so I kind of verified what my dad had thought. Because I knew, again, we were from England, but didn't know that far. And again, I still have no solid proof, but that's most likely where our family came from, was just Vikings. And so finding all that information, then once the computer came out, everything changed. I mean, there was all kinds of information going around. And again, it took some time, as over the last 15 years or so, once the internet has gotten better, and there's just more and more information. Again, there's a lot of digging, but it's there. You just have to spend a lot of time. And I got our family. Again, all this is just about all online. We go back to the Revolutionary War. I found 4 brothers that fought in the Revolutionary War. And then I went back further to the 1700s in Maryland. I had relatives there. And those are the ones that ended up fighting in the Revolutionary War. Then I went back almost 100 years earlier to Captain James Smith. And I had a relative that was a soldier that with Captain Smith at his expedition to Jamestown in 1605. And I was like, that was great, finding all that information and getting the lineage right to that. And then once I started going to exploring in England, I found that we had one of the family members was a mason for the king, and he was repairing a bridge. And that was in the 1580s. And then we had a relative that died in the 2 actually relatives that were Jesuits that died. They would not renounce their religion with the king, and they ended up dying in Hull prison in, again, I think 1560s, 1580s. And then I go back. I found another record that back to 1374, William de Ackridge and wife were seeking dwelling. They, I guess, had bought something, a property, land, and a house from this gentleman, and they were seeking it, wanted to get it. And so I'm going, well, that's pretty interesting. Now back to the 1370s, and that was really good finding that, all this information. Again, just different bits and pieces. And again, when I was doing work in Maryland in the 1700s, I was reading an article in a book or a newspaper about I forget what it was, a meeting, was it 100 free oh, I forget what it was, a group of people that represented other people. Um, and I found our name in this one document written in the same hand, spelled two different ways. And then I was reading other articles to find out about this, and not really until the 1700s was the English language standardized. So depending on where you came from England and how you were raised and what accent you heard and would write and spell different. And that's how I kind of understood it. So, okay, now I found our name was spelled about 23 different ways over a few hundred years. And then again, here's another shout out to the Latter-day Saints and their Family Search Center. Every once in a while you get relative updates. And I guess a year or so ago I got a relative update that we were related through cousins, lineage, to FDR. And then again I found out that, again, going through his lineage, he was related to George Washington. So George Washington was related to the Queen's family. So here all of a sudden I'm going back to the Queen's family, and I found information on the Queen's family back to the 1100s. Now that's just one line out of many cousins, but it was interesting to find out that I got back to 1100, and here we are, and now, so 2025, that's pretty amazing to find lineage that far back. And then watch that show, Finding Your Roots, they have on PBS, which is pretty neat. And people get finding their roots. It's a great thing. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. Peace out. What's your lineage? Have a good day. Peace.